Hey, welcome back to Plug and Play EV, kickstarting Coffee and Kilowatts for the new year and looking at DC fast charging again. All the investment going in that direction, lots of new stations will be popping up, and the question for today is stations versus stalls. Do we want to add more large sites with maybe 8, 12, 16, as you'll see at some Electrify America and certainly a lot of Tesla locations, or are we fine with the current setup of 4 to 6 and just adding more and more stations, so making sure we have the locations going in so that if one station is full, you can simply drive on to the next one. That's the topic for today: stalls versus stations. Which should we prioritize? Let's go. So I'm at this Electrify America site up in Salem, New Hampshire, just across the border with Massachusetts, and charging to a healthy midpoint in the battery. This one is notable for its lack of CHAdeMO. This is one of the first in the area that I've seen. You see the BMW i3 is a CCS vehicle, and both of the connectors on that station are CCS. Two in the middle here, both CCS. And then the only option on ours is also two CCS connectors. So one of the first that we've seen with no CHAdeMO at all. Even in the best Electrify America sites, it's still only one CHAdeMO connector and 50 kilowatt. But the goal today, as I say, is to look at these 4 stalls. Is this enough? Do we want to install more 6, more 8, more 12 stall sites? And should that be focus going forward now that we have so many different EV models and CCS models coming out? So if you watched our summary of summer travel in 2021 with our Bolt EV, when we went across to Michigan, all around the Great Lakes, and then back down to Boston via Pennsylvania, you'll have noticed that there were more and more electric vehicles at the Electrify America sites that we used, hitting Pennsylvania, the main turnpikes, over in New York as we came across, and then back into Boston, New York, New Jersey. We've certainly been seeing more and more electric cars charging at Electrify America sites. As you would expect, as more models come out, more CCS models, there is the Volkswagen ID4, which has that free charging deal for 3 years on Electrify America. The Ford Mustang Mach-E, which has a deal for much less, but still could prioritize Electrify America for its power and speed. And then obviously you just have anything that is trying to travel across most of these interstate corridors really needs to go to an Electrify America site, because they generally are the only option. So that being said, we now have 4 stalls at the majority of these Electrify America stations. So we have these, the redundancy is there to an extent. If a machine or two fail, then you have 2 other options to go to. In terms of reliability, I think we're improving, but what we come to is when we roll up to a station, if we're taking the last spot, which was the case a few times last summer, what's left for somebody who turns up? They're going to have to wait. So on the surface of it, I had thought maybe just add more stalls. You have these locations already. It seems like quite an issue, or quite a palaver, to go into permitting, getting new stations in the ground at a brand new location, all of the work that goes with that. Of course, there are some additions to the infrastructure that you need to put into a specific site to expand it out. You'll need new equipment there, the charger as well as the back-end units. But seems like if there's already a site in place, it would be easier to add maybe another 2. You see right here, we've got the space. We could simply say 4 already, 1, 2, and maybe even over to 8 over there. And that would work potentially, But then, at the same time, that is trying to take up more parking lot space. In some cases, that's fine. There'll be a big wide open parking lot. No one will care. In other cases, there will not be that space. Retail partners may still not quite see the urgent demand. They may see that the stalls sit empty for extended periods of time because, we don't have that level of EV adoption yet, and they may not agree to that. So maybe there are still sticking points that you would run into, even having done the legwork of getting a site up and running already. So in that case, maybe it is more appropriate to find more and more partners, come up with new sites, new locations where people can charge, because you'll serve a brand new area. You already have these in the ground, sure, and they serve this area, But what if you go another 20, 30 miles up the road and can serve a community where people are interested in electric cars but maybe don't feel like they can charge locally? Maybe they're in a multi-unit dwelling. Every extra station that you put in the ground, every new location, serves to maybe open up charging to another population, which would not be the case if you're just simply adding more stalls at a location that exists already. So in some cases, this may already be decided with the amount of money going in. Just Electrify America alone has its boost plan now, so it's going to go from 720 stations, which are live at the time of recording, and the goal is something like 1,800, I think, by the end of 2025. So there's already an acceleration to add new locations, more locations than they had originally intended. And it's going to be the same for all the states spending money will want their own new sites. They're probably not going to, just add on to existing sites. That wouldn't necessarily be the best way to spend that money. You're going to see new players come in. You see EVgo partnering with GM to deliver more Ultium ready sites. Those are intended to serve city centers and more metropolitan areas, which maybe in some places are just not well served at the moment. So you're likely to see more stations there. So I have certainly turned around on that, I think, by the experience of last year when we were pulling in and saying that we were the last car taking up the last space, making me think, well, I'd just like to have more spaces here. We want to install more stalls. Although I do think that should remain an option and something that is in the toolkit of networks like Electrify America, EVgo, etc. Certainly, EVgo in places like the Mass Pike, where they've got real great access and location, there should be more stations on those stops, or at the very least adding more EVgo locations across the entire Mass Pike. So there's one caveat there at stations that have only one charger, maybe two chargers with low power. Those should certainly be upgraded, I think, and future-proof the site there. So there are examples of that where that would make sense to add more stalls in retrofit sites that are existing. But overall, I think it probably makes more sense to just get more and more locations in the ground for EV adoption and for the diverse amount of use cases that we can think, whether it's people needing the charging sites because they work nearby, or it's simply too busy at existing charging sites and we need to add more into the ground, or maybe your deal is with EVgo. Maybe you're a Nissan customer who seems to be getting more deals with the likes of the EVgo network. GM, who presumably will start to work with EVgo to offer free charging or discounted charging. So once you get into network preferences, you will certainly want to have an Electrify America or an EVgo, maybe a backup site from the state level charging networks, that kind of thing, all in a relatively similar location. But what's your opinion? Do you see this locally? Would you much prefer to have just a single hub, charging hub if you like, that has a ton of chargers and everybody can go there and build out amenities that make sense for that location? Or are you in an area where you have one charging station that you have to rely on for a big long trip and you really don't want that to be the only one that's there? You'd rather see multiple different providers, increase that redundancy and reliability by putting competition in, if you like. So that's it. Simple, quick topic this week, just to get Coffee and Kilowatts rolling again. Do you prefer more stations, more locations, or more stalls and charging equipment at the ones we already have? Let us know down in the comments. What are the pros and cons of each? What have we missed? What did we cover that you liked? And yeah, we'll have a good conversation down there. Hopefully we can use it to inform some future spending on DC fast charging equipment. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.